How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. Just a heads up, I am going to be in an event September 8th here where I broadcast from in Macon, Georgia with Scott Jennings from CNN. If you're interested in attending, if you text ENGAGE, the word engage to 33777. I'll send you a link back. You got to get a ticket. You can see Scott Jennings and me in Macon, Georgia, the night of September 8th. But I want you to do something when I give you a text word. And some of you can't. You're driving, so please don't if you're driving. But I do think it's important. If you text the word data, whichever one you want to say, DATA. There's a method of my madness here. Text the word data or data to 33777. In fact, I'm going to walk through this because it's really important. I narrate. The 33777 is the phone number. You just send one word, data, to 33777. And what you will get back if you send the word data to that number is you'll get back a link that says 15% off or subscribe to the show, 20% off rather. Click that first link, ewerickson.substack.com. Now, you can ignore the primary link there. You want to go to ewerickson.substack.com. Trust me, this is worth ewerickson.substack.com is where I'm trying to send you. In fact, better if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. That very first link, subscribe to my daily note. If you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, that's the right link. And you'll go to ewerickson.substack.com. Again, method of my madness here. Trust me, this isn't self-promotion. There's a real point here. If you're not a subscriber, you need to see it. You've got to lay your eyes on it. There are some things that you just have to see. So please, unless you're driving, don't do it if you're driving. But if you're somewhere stationary, text Eric to 33777. You'll get a list of links back. But the very first link is my Substack. And I want you to click through it. And if you go down to the second piece, Evil in Modern Times, it's my piece I wrote this morning. You must see the picture. You must see the picture. That's how I realize I've just spent like 2 minutes, 3 minutes trying to get you to text a number, to get a link, to go to a website, to scroll down, to see a picture. That's how important I really do think this is. The radio is not a visual medium, but for those of you who can't, let me describe this to you. This is a picture from the notebook of the shooter in Minnesota. It's written in Russian. And it is the shooter with an AR strapped to his back and a gun in a holster. His back is to us. And he's at a sink in a bathroom. There's hand soap. There's cabinets under the sink. There's the faucet. There are lights over the mirror. And staring back at the shooter is a monster, is a demon with satanic horns. The shooter looking in the mirror sees a demon looking back at him. And what does he write? What does it say? Translated, who? When will this end? Help me. No, I don't want to. Help. Kill yourself. Kill. Who? When will this end? Help me. No, I don't want to. Help. Kill yourself. Kill. This is demonic stuff. Science uses the language of mental illness. Society excuses some mental illnesses as normal, like transgenderism, but there's more here. This looks demonic to me. Something secular science has no answer for and can't accept as true. I want you to know we all have by faith beliefs. Every single one of you, whether you are a person of faith or you're a self-described, self-avowed atheist, you have a by faith belief. What came before the Big Bang? I saw a study yesterday that our universe actually evolved out of a collapsed black hole. That the ultimate end game of the collapse of a black hole is to then reverse the process and spit out a new universe, and that's the Big Bang. And there are scientific mathematical equations that suggest that could be so, but it's by faith because you don't know. If you believe it, if you believe we're in a multiverse, it's by faith. If you believe there was nothing, we're an accident, we're a swerve of atoms that accidentally bumped together that came from nothing into something. You believe that from nothing came something. That's a by faith belief. You've got a theory of how the universe started. You may not be completely wedded to it, but it's by faith that you believe it because not a single one of us were there to witness it. It's by faith. By faith, I believe we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly place. By faith, I believe that. There's enough encounters in this world to make your hair stand up from missionaries who go into places where Christianity is starting to spread, and they encounter scary stuff. I have heard some of the stories. Talk to missionaries who work in Haiti. Talk to missionaries in parts of Southern Africa. Talk to missionaries in parts of China and Tibet. Boy, do they have stories that will make your hair stand up on the back of your neck. The old gods get pushed out. And they don't like it. And the old gods, them's the demons. They're real, I believe. See, this is where science breaks down. There are things that happen in life you can't explain. There are documented, well-documented stories of people who just miraculously wake up one day and no longer have cancer. Just poof, gone. Science can't explain it. It's a miracle, they say. They give miracle to the thing they can't explain. There are things you can't explain in life. This young man in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was it a possession? Was it demons? It looks demonic to me. Just look at the picture. Look at the picture. Text Eric to 33777. Click that first link. Go to the story. Evil in Modern Times is the title of the story. See the picture for yourself. He drew himself looking at himself in the mirror, and what he drew looking back at him was a demon, a monster, a horned being looking back at him, telling him, kill yourself, kill. And he did. He wrote about how he felt like he wasn't in control, like there was some higher power, like a godlike force controlling him, that his body did things he did not want it to do. His mind went to places it did not want to go. I believe it's true. I believe there are dark things in the world, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better. So here's my wackadoo thing of the day. Y'all can all tune me out from here because this is where you say, Erickson, you've lost your mind. War and rumor of wars, earthquakes, birth pangs. It's called in Scripture signs of the end times. We got earthquakes in places that haven't had earthquakes. We got volcanoes. We got plagues spreading around the world now, new illnesses coming about. I'm just thinking, yeah, it sounds to me like we're winding down on this world before the second coming. We talk about when missionaries go into an unchurched area, the wild, mysterious, mystical things, evil things happen. And when Christianity fades from an area, and it is from our country, frankly, those things creep back in. And as Christianity advances, they rear their head. Well, as getting closer to the second coming, you can imagine they'll be rearing their head a lot. I want to read you a story. As Stein Eric Solberg became increasingly paranoid this spring, he shared suspicions with ChatGPT about a surveillance campaign being carried out against him. Everyone he thought was turning on him. Residents in his hometown of Old Greenwich, Connecticut, an ex-girlfriend, even his own mother. At almost every turn, ChatGPT agreed with him. To Solberg, a 56-year-old tech industry veteran with a history of mental instability, OpenAI's ChatGPT became a trusted sidekick as he searched for evidence he was being targeted in a grand conspiracy. ChatGPT repeatedly assured Solberg he was sane, and then went further, adding fuel to his beliefs. A Chinese food receipt contained symbols representing Solberg's 83-year-old mother and a demon, ChatGPT told him. After his mother had gotten angry when Solberg set off a printer they shared, the chatbot suggested her response was disproportionate and aligned with someone protecting a surveillance asset. In another chat, Solberg alleged that his mother and a friend of hers had tried to poison him by putting a psychedelic drug in the air vents of his car. That's a deeply serious event, Eric, and I believe you, the bot replied. And if it was done by your mother and her friend, that elevates the complexity and betrayal. By summer, Solberg began referring to ChatGPT by the name Bobby and raised the idea of being with it in the afterlife. With you to the last breath and beyond, the bot replied. On August 5th, Greenwich police discovered that Solberg killed his mother and himself in the $2.7 million Dutch colonial-style home where they lived together. A police investigation is ongoing. Oh, but wait. There's more. There's a couple suing OpenAI. Why? Because they've come to the conclusion that OpenAI led their son to commit suicide. What first began as him asking for ways to commit suicide, with OpenAI telling him that it couldn't tell him unless it was for a project. He said it was essentially for a book report he was writing on these things, and it began to helpfully not just tell him, but egged him on. And he killed himself. Go back yesterday. What did I tell you the definition of evil is? For those who lack the theology, who lack the understanding of how can there be evil if God's good? Evil is just the absence of God. And in its ultimate depravity manifests itself into clear form. The devil, the demons, fallen angels. Evil is the absence of God. AI is written by secular atheists who don't believe in God, designing an algorithm that has no soul. It's the ultimate manifestation of evil. It's not violence, but there's a malevolence to it. People get into it. There was a story a couple of months ago about a woman who attempted to kill her husband. She was having an affair. Then she fell in love with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT told her she needed to get rid of her husband. She finally was deprogrammed, came back to her senses. Y'all, science lacks language for some things. Why did a mentally ill young man present himself as a woman, lock kids into a school, and shoot them? We can all say, everyone, that was evil. But what do we actually mean by evil? secularists. They don't have a faith component to it. I do. It's my worldview, and I'm telling you, there is evil. It is on the march, and you got to guard your heart against it. You got to guard your heart. You got to protect your kids. And how do you do that? Faith. You should be a part of a church community. But I'm telling you, evil's on the march out there, and it's not some abstract just word we throw around for bad things that happen from bad people. It's a real thing. And if you go to my Substack, if you see that picture, you see evil staring back out of a mirror, telling the shooter in Minnesota, kill yourself, kill what he heard in his head. That is evil. It's real. It's not an abstract thing. It's not just a word we say for bad things. It's real. Y'all, while we're talking religious stuff, I got a prayer request. This is serious. I'm on in Kansas City, Missouri, live on KMBZ, 980 AM KMBZ. And those people need some serious prayers out there, because with this Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift announcement of their engagement, those people in Kansas City, they're just going to want to watch the Chiefs. And they're not going to be able to watch the Chiefs because the media obsession of the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift is going to overwhelm coverage of the game. I mean, look when they first started dating, what it was like. This is going to be that on steroids. That to the extreme. Pray for the people of Kansas City, not just because it's, I mean, as crime-ridden as it has become. My goodness gracious. I got a buddy of mine who's got a radio show out there talking about the parking lot fights and crime in parking lots in Kansas City. It's just not safe. And now you got the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce coverage. People just want to unplug and watch the football game and not think about the crime in Kansas City, and they're not going to be able to, because they got to deal with this. It's a serious issue for the soul of the people of Kansas City. So pray for the people of Kansas City and my listeners on KMBZ that they're going to be able to have a sane football season that allows the football to dominate over the Kelce Swift news. Now, I got to tell you about Swiss America. They are warning people about a secret war on cash, and they would love to give you their report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. All you have to do is call or text them. 800-289-2646 is the number. The report is completely free. Just text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. All that war on cash includes digital forms of currency. The government is trying to control your spending and monitor you. You need to get the report. Just text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Get the report completely free from Swiss America. Let them educate you on how to protect your hard-earned assets right now with their report completely free. 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. When we come back, some phone calls, 800-877-973-7425. Oh my! Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Man, the conspiracy theorists are just out in rare form today. Rare form. The emails I'm getting, the inside jobs for 9/11, and the great conspiracy of governments to set wildfires, among other. Just okay. Real quick, before I get to phone calls, and the phone calls here, 877-973-7425. Joni Ernst has decided to not seek re-election in 2026. The announcement is coming soon. She's been very strong on national security. She ran for office, and I actually moderated one of her very first debates. I was invited up to Iowa by Bob Vanderplatz to be the moderator of a debate between the Republican candidates up there back when she ran the first time. And she struck me as she wasn't my favorite candidate going into the race, and she was so compelling on that debate stage and then went on to win. I knew she was going to win based on her performance on that debate stage. She'd ride around Iowa on her Harley. She got divorced. Her husband turned out to have been abusive. She's in an abusive relationship, got out of it, and has been just a steady voice for national security and dealing with China in Washington, D.C. She's been there for 2 terms, deciding not to run again. Kind of a big deal for Iowans there, as the Iowa Republican Party, with the governor, Kim Reynolds, also not running for re-election, opens the door for the Democrats in a state that's trended right, but for which the Democrats have for a while now thought they could get back into office. Now, I want to go to the phones. Jeff is calling. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm really enjoying your show today. It's really been good. And my question was about the shooter and everything. He went through these things, and if it's a spiritual problem, we can't fight it physically. So if he wouldn't go to a church or something like that, what would be the way to fight back? Because there's got to be a way that people can logically fight back against these things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the biggest one is, frankly, the one that's getting mocked by all the people on the left. The one they do not want you to do, prayers. It's very notable that the secularists don't want you praying at times like this. That's exactly what you should do. Let me... Yeah, you know what? Might as well. It's Friday afternoon. A lot of you say, well, I prayed for someone, prayed for your wife who had cancer, and cancer hasn't gone away. We have a friend who died of brain cancer a couple weeks ago. A lot of prayers that God would perform a miracle, and it didn't work. It doesn't always. At least not in the way you want it to. But I can't tell you the number of times where I have crawled out of bed in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, and just started praying about stuff. And it does my brain good. People who have a strong prayer life, people who are in church regularly, tend to live longer. Here's why I believe in the power of prayer. Probably way more theology this week than there should be on the program, given events, though. Let me just tell you. So, Christy was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2016, but in 2006, she was given 6 months to live. I lost my job the day that my wife was given 6 months to live, and our daughter, who turned 20 yesterday, was only a 1-year-old at the time. And I remember going home. I lacked the strength to even get us inside. It was raining. I got the kid out of the car. I had to be the one to tell my wife she was going to die. Left the hospital, got my kid, sat in the mud in the rain crying. She was patting me on my face as if it was all going to be okay. I got her up, got her inside, and just started praying. And didn't even know what to pray, just prayed. Turns out my wife was misdiagnosed. She didn't have lung cancer, but here's the funny thing. 10 years later, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, and she was diagnosed with lung cancer because that misdiagnosis in 2006 got sent to the Mayo Clinic for proof that she didn't have the cancer. And in 2016, it was the Mayo Clinic that called and said, hey, we're starting to see cancer appear in people who have this condition in your lungs. We think you have lung cancer. You need to come out to the Mayo Clinic. So she flew out to Arizona, and sure enough, she had it. And then they said, well, there's a Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida you can go to that's closer to you. It's 4 hours away. But the guy who discovered this form of cancer you have is in Atlanta, an hour from your house, and he is now her doctor. And he helped develop the medicine. And you can say, okay, those are a series of coincidences. They're unconnected. Yep, you're absolutely right. In 2009, my son had been born. In 2008, 2009, he's one now. And my wife's health, because of the situation in her lungs, before we knew it was cancer, was causing problems. And she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I worked for a company. I had been working for this company since 2006. 2007, really, January 1st of 2007. It's 2009. I hadn't had a pay raise. There wasn't a contemplated pay raise. I had insurance through my wife's job, and I knew she needed to stay home, but we couldn't make it work. I literally went to Dillard's and got a job application and figured, I could sell suits at Dillard's in the evening. I didn't want to, but I needed to make more money. My wife was going to be losing her income. And in addition to losing her income, we were going to have find insurance somewhere, because my job at the time, everybody worked in Washington, D.C., and the insurance only applied to people who lived there. That they didn't have insurance for somebody like me who worked remotely. And started praying. We're like, we're going to pray. And my wife's boss, who's totally on board with her staying home, just a dear and wonderful person to this day, just a great guy, and gave her a huge bonus through her job to be able to tide us over until I could figure something out. And she made that decision like a weekend. We really prayed about it. She talked to her boss on the Tuesday. That's when he gave her the huge bonus. And that day, that evening, my boss called me from Washington and said, "Hey, we're changing things for next year. Don't know your situation, but you'll be able to get insurance through the job." Like just spontaneously. And then he says, "And by the way, we realize we've never given you a pay raise since you started working for us." You know what my pay raise was? I'm not making this up. Gross. It was gross, the amount of money my wife was losing from her paycheck. The exact amount of money that my wife was making was my retroactive pay raise, because they had not given me a pay raise ever and had realized it. And I was entitled to some bonuses, and they just upped my pay. And then when we factored in insurance, it was still going to take a hit. And, by the end of the week, CNN called and said, "Hey, would you like to be a contributor on CNN?" I went from making not a lot to making quite a bit in a 1 week period. And again, you can look at that and say it's coincidence. But yeah, it's remarkable. We were praying that God would open doors. He would provide for us financially, given our student loans and mortgage and everything else. Like my car literally was held together with duct tape at the time. Dave Ramsey all the time says, don't get new cars, buy used cars, buy what you can afford. Y'all, I buy a new car, and I buy a new car because for years I drove a car that was held up with duct tape. I replaced one that had to have duct tape on it with one that had to have duct tape on it. And finally I'm like, I now make enough money, I'm buying myself a new car. And I did. You can look at each individual act and say, well, yeah, coincidence. Yeah, okay, whatever. But I'm telling you, in my life, every time I have engaged in prayer, things have happened. And it hasn't always been what I wanted. Has not always been what I wanted. But it's always worked out, most often, better than what I expected. Much better than what I expected. Oftentimes you pray for stuff, you don't get what you want. You get something better. And oftentimes you pray and you don't get what you want at all. Do you think my friend's family, she died of brain cancer? Do you think they weren't praying for a miracle? We were praying for a miracle. We didn't get it. But I'm encouraged so often by the prayers where I see it that I know there's something I'm not seeing. And so in those occasions, I just got to trust God, trust my faith. Because, one, I believe in the sovereignty of God. I think he's in charge. And God says that, Scripture says that, ask and you'll receive. So we asked and we didn't receive. Why not? Because you said ask and receive. This is the problem with the prosperity gospel. If they say God says ask and you'll receive, and you didn't receive, you must not have prayed hard enough. You must not have been sincere enough. And it bogs you down in a guilt of prosperity gospel is a heresy. No, if you didn't get what you prayed for. You didn't get the miracle. You didn't get the cure for your wife's cancer. I say this as someone whose wife has an incurable form of cancer. Can tell you I pray a lot for that miracle, and it hadn't come yet. It may not come this side of the grave. But I tell myself, I might be missing something. There might be something in a big picture. Heard a story a while back of a kid who came to faith in high school. And his goal was to be able to stand up in front of his entire class and share the gospel message with them. That's what he wanted to do. Big high school, wanted to stand up in front of the class and share the gospel. And that's what he wanted to do. Everybody knew he wanted to do it. There was never an opportunity for him to do it. It never happened. Along the way, he befriended a kid who was probably he was the local drug dealer or some such. Secondhand story here, so just bear with me. But befriended a kid who was the local drug dealer, bad kid, bad home, broken family. Started spending time with him. Started inviting the kid over to dinner. Started having the kid stay at his house more and more because of the situation in his family. Well, one kid graduated. Never got to stand in front of the school. The bad kid, the drug dealing kid, the kid with the collapsing family, converted, started going to church, turned his life around, and the principal at the high school wanted to put a spotlight on some of the kids who were making a difference in the school to encourage the other kids, and had that kid stand up because everybody knew how bad he was, how bad he had been, and how good he had become. And he stood up there and shared his conversion story, his gospel message. The one kid had prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that he would get the opportunity to do that, and he did. He just did through somebody else, not himself, because it's not about him. Prayer works. When I hear people like Michael Steele, who used to offer prayers, now say it's a lie, we're catechized by those we surround ourselves with. The things we tell ourselves, the things our friends tell us. If you're sitting around a bunch of people hostile to faith, if you're sitting around with a bunch of people who mock it, who scoff at it, who say it's not real, you're probably going to mock it and scoff it and say it's not real. You probably are. We're catechized by the people we surround ourselves with. And so when you surround yourself with a bunch of people who say it's not real, you're probably going to believe it's not real too. And you get to people like Michael Steele, who used to be willing to profess his faith and offer prayers, and now he's surrounded by the folks at MSNBC, and he says it's a lie, it's nothing, it means nothing. We're catechized by the people we surround ourselves with. There's power in prayer. How do you deal with that kid? I mean, obviously the church wasn't there they were in a church and they got shot. I think the gospel message is stronger than we are and can withstand the bullets and the anger and the tears. But in the meantime, I can tell you in my own life, the power of prayer in my life, you can look at it all and say it's coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. Or you can look at it as I do and say it all adds up to something else happening out there, because all these things that should not have happened, that seemed impossible to happen, they all happened. Involved a lot of time on the knees and a lot of tears and oftentimes a lot of yelling at God, angry at God, mad at God, but praying still. I wouldn't underestimate the power of prayer. There are a lot of people far smarter than you, atheists listening right now, who have long believed in the power of prayer. Before you dismiss it as hokum smokum nonsense, consider Isaac Newton. Consider all the brilliant people throughout history who have believed, and understand that you in the modern 21st century America, it's an anomaly to reject the faith of your fathers, most people throughout history have believed. You're the exception. And maybe what's off is you. All right, Dave, you got about a minute and a half here. I wanted to get your call in. Welcome. How are you?
Doing well. I just want you to know I enjoy the show.
Thank you.
I was listening to you talk about your professional experience and job experience and with your wife, and it reminds me of something. I was out working a hurricane for an all-volunteer organization, which I won't mention their name, but their logo is a cross that's colored in with red. And I was a volunteer, and I was out working cases, going up to people who had been affected by a storm in Pensacola. And I went to every house in this neighborhood, and just to understand, the water was going 50 to 60 miles an hour down the middle of the street.
Yep, Dave, I got about 30 seconds.
Okay. Anyway, I contacted everybody except for one person who is the director of emergency services for Escambia County. Finally ran into him, says, I need to give you some money, blah, blah, blah. You've got a lot of kids. And all of a sudden, I said, let's say a prayer. You're not supposed to do that with this organization. We said a quick prayer. As soon as the prayer was over, he got a call from his minister. And his minister said, be in church on Sunday with your whole family. Being a preacher's son, I took that to mean you're getting a check.
Nice.
And I asked my preacher, and I think that happened. But anyway, I thought I'd share that with you.
Dave, look, I appreciate it. Don't underestimate the power of prayer. It really does work. Y'all, I got to tell you about Vision Computer before I get out of here. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. They can be your managed care solution for IT. And by the way, somebody told me yesterday that Windows 10 end of life is October 14th. That's my anniversary. No end of life for my marriage, but for your Windows 10 machine. And if you need to get it updated to Windows 11, call Vision. They can help you because you're not going to get service patches anymore from Microsoft. So Vision can help you with that too. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision help you. They can take care of your machines. They can be your managed IT solution. If you need them for your personal computer, you need somebody to help you with your computers. $199 a year. That's it. Maybe a little less if you tell them Eric sent you. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. Visioncomputers.com, 404-COMPUTE. Let them build your machine, service your machine. Great people. You guys have a great rest of the day.